All right, I think we are recording this. So, Craig, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Well, kind of following the notes that you put out from the last meeting, uh, I did contact Sue Rockley with Fromm, and that, by the way, did take some time because Fromm's staff is pretty much all working from home, and their system of having phone calls and voice messages left at the office number did not get forwarded to her. So it was several days until I just tried several other options. But anyway, I did talk with her, and she did clarify one of the issues that we first talked about, or first is listed under our questions. As I suspected, Fromm is a supplier of materials only. They do not do labor, the installation of the work. However, they have worked with a number of electrical contractors, and there were a couple that Sue said had even done church projects with them, and she was in a position to recommend someone if that's what we were interested in doing. And I said, absolutely, that's what we're looking to do, at least at this point of the project. So she was kind enough to organize and schedule a face-to-face meeting at the church with with her and Steve Zaffary, Zaffary. He is, I guess, a principal of Blatt and Zaffary Electrical. Side note, he was the electrical contractor that did the work in the Rose Room. So he was familiar with Advent and was telling me the challenges that he faced in getting the Luther Rose light fixtures that are in there. Sidebar. So back to the main issue. Um, Sue had never visited the church before. She had seen photographs that Larry sent her. And as we started talking, she said, which a good designer would, well, what's the problem? What is it you're trying to accomplish here? And I said, well, obviously, number one is the lighting level. And she said, yes, I see that, the lighting level. And we had fired up everything, fired up all the lights that were there. The lighting level obviously is not adequate for the use, and she could see that. I also said that there might be a desire on our part, just and I described it as almost a facelift, just to install new fixtures so that we're modernizing, and that's not the right term, but uh, we're changing the look of the church. Uh, we went on to discuss the issues that we had talked about before: the size of the fixtures, the style of the fixtures, the architectural integration of that with the sanctuary itself. Also, we talked about the desire to have a warm light, not a cold light, and she absolutely understood what I was talking about with that. She said that she has seen people make that mistake and turn what is a pleasant area or a pleasant room into something that is not so pleasant. Also talked about better control of the lighting and also having some maintaining dimming capability. Uh, I was really surprised when she said, well, what's wrong with the fixtures you have now? And I said, well, aside from the lighting levels, I don't know of anything. There's nothing, although I did see one of the fixtures in the narthex, the bottom grill of the fixture is no longer there. But that was the only thing that I could see with any of the fixtures that was anything wrong with them. And she said, well, I got to tell you, I love them. I love them the way they are. They are size appropriate. They are uh, period appropriate with the architecture. She said, don't get me wrong. I'd love to sell you $50,000 worth of new fixtures, but I just have to tell you that I like what you have here. That moved our discussions to, at this point, and that doesn't mean that we can't go back and say we want to revisit brand new fixtures, but we moved to the discussion of retrofit. And I was happy to hear the electrical contractor say that he believes that it doesn't require a rewiring of the fixture. It just the lamps or the bulbs, the light bulbs that are in those fixtures can be replaced with LED bulbs. Now, the designer and the electrician went into some detailed discussions about numbers of bulbs and changing this from that. But the bottom line was, it seems like it could be done, and the electrical contractor got up above the where the restrooms are beside the narthex and found the big, I'm going to say the big black boxes that control the dimming. I didn't know exactly where they were. He even went down in the basement and was looking, but we have 5 big black boxes that are part of the dimming and lighting control system. He believes that they can be used as is. We also played around with the lighting controls, the switches, and anyone who has ever tried to turn lights on and off in there has said some words that probably should not have been said in a church or anywhere. But anyway, he said, the wire is the wire, and it's just not terminated at the right place. So he believes, he said, I love these kinds of problems. And I thought, well, maybe this is our guy. But he said, I really believe that he could figure it out. I never noticed before, but there's a spotlight at the altar that's controlled by or bundled in with some of the general area lighting. I mean, it's some of this. We knew it was bad, and the more I look at it, the more I see that there are things that are wrong. So after talking about all of that and what we thought could be done, Sue, the lighting designer, said, boy, it's a shame you can't do just a little demo. And it was like the light bulb went off in my head. I said, well, let's talk about that some more. What if we took one of the big lights, the biggest, the one of 11 of the big lights in the sanctuary, and relamped it, and you guys figure out, you lighting designer, exactly what kind of lamps and bulbs and what they talk about degrees Kelvin of what is the quality of the light that's coming out, which is all wonderful. But I said, if you guys figure all that out, let's do one. And we could also do it in a place that is easier to get to. That the electrician has a mechanical lift that, in fact, he even looked at the ramp and the width of the doorways. So the ramp, he could use the ramp and bring everything in, and we could do a test of that. And I said, well, okay, it sounds like this is all doable. What would it cost us to do one? And I like this idea that we could look at it. We could have other folks look at it and say, here's the quality of the light, here's the warmness, or here's the, and we could take a light meter, and we could, at the appropriate height, which might be whatever the height of sitting in a pew holding a hymnal is, what's the lighting level at that level? And how does that compare to what the lighting designer or the lighting experts say it should be? So anyway,
I was going to say, it'd be interesting too to do that and find out what the lighting level is of the lights we already have. Compare them.
One of the problems that we noticed with the lights we have now, there are many burnout lights. It's not as apparent as it was with the steeple, where, you know, when we fixed the controller for the steeple lights, the steeple still wasn't very well lit up because they're burnt out. You can't see that quite as clearly with those lights have the lights that are in the sanctuary, those the big boys, the 11 big ones. At the bottom there is a big light, and it's actually a round light bulb. If you can see my hands, I'm holding a basketball. I'm pretending. So that's what the light bulb, the light looks like, and that's to provide the downlight in the middle of the fixture. And I can't remember if it's 9 or 12, but they are rather just like incandescent light bulbs. And I can't remember if it's 3 groups of 3 all on the same level. If it's 6 or if it's, or excuse me, if it's 9 or 12, but that provides the bulk of the light for the center of the fixture. And then there's another light bulb at the top that Sue thought was to provide uplight to get some reflection off of the ceiling to help, you know, integrate the whole business. So yes, we could do what you're suggesting, and I think very easily, because we just have to take the light meter over to another pew, and I think that would just show us clearly how inadequate the lighting levels are.
Yeah, if it's easy to get that baseline, I think we should get that baseline, to Wayne's point, even knowing that the deck is stacked in our favor because some of the lights are out.
Yeah, no, and I think all of us, as we have gotten a little bit older here, have found that we are, for a Sunday morning, turning the hymnal towards the outside windows because we're getting more light from the windows than we are from the light fixture.
Right.
But anyway, so I said, okay, well, this is all wonderful. You know, what would it cost us to do this? The electrician said, you know, this is really straightforward. Just, we're not going to do anything more than change out the light bulbs with the appropriate light that the designer would tell them to install and actually would provide to them to install. He said, you know, 2 guys an hour. And I said, well, in dollars. He said, I don't know, $200, you know, that not much. Then I said to the,
Is that per light or for all the lights?
that's for one. That's
Yeah.
for one to do. Well, I shouldn't say that's for one fixture. All of the lights within one fixture.
So
Yes.
the top one, the 9 or the 12, and then the
And
basket.
then the bottom one. And
Yeah.
what they're also talking about is changing that. This would be new technology, new LED technology, of which they're saying these things have 20,000 hours or more of. And the way we use it, you're talking about 20 years that before you'd have to. Hey, 20 years, I'm not going to have to worry about it. None of us.
Well, and the other thing that we'll appreciate too with LED is the decreased cost in energy consumption.
Exactly. Yes.
And Craig, does that also help us with the existing wiring? Because the wattage won't be as great as if we wanted to boost incandescent?
Yeah. Well,
I was just going to say the LEDs typically draw a whole lot less.
exactly. Yeah. The lighting, I'm not sure if the lighting levels, if we just did a complete lighting change of what's there with incandescent instead of LED, the lighting level might be more appropriate, you know, or may equal what it should be. And I think by testing we can see what it is. But anyway, we're talking about cost, and I asked Sue, well, what would the cost of these bulbs be? And she said, well, I don't know, without, you know, off the top of her head, she said probably less than $200. So I said, well, let me understand, for less than maybe $500, we could do a demo, a test of what you're thinking and what we have been talking about here. And they said, yeah, that seems reasonable. Um, so I think that's something that we need to talk about. Uh, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a good use of our money because it also then, even though we're spending money, that if we said in the going forward that no, we really want to change out the fixtures and we want this place to look entirely different. Um, the designer did say, well, and that all can be done. That's not not a problem. But if you're going to go to uh, the new, let me make sure I get this right, the new LED fixture, the electrician has to run 2 low voltage wires from the control panel, which would have to be all new control panels, to each individual fixture, because the way they operate is different than what we're talking about. We're really going to control the lights the same way that we controlled them before, just getting some wires to the right terminals instead of the way they're operating now. But that's what they're believing, that it's that simple. Also, with new fixtures, both the electrician and the designer said, what you've got here, you're never going to be able to replace the quality. Today's fixtures, what they're making today, still in order to be somewhat price competitive, the metals are thinner, and what do you buy today that is as good as it was? Probably a lot of things, but anyway. So I think that.
Well, Craig, just for a point of discussion here, when you started off and talked about requirements, from my perspective, our requirements or whatever, I agree with the low lighting. We want to try and improve the level of lighting in the sanctuary. I'm not sure I ever felt as charged up about changing the look of the sanctuary. I don't know about Wayne, but from my perspective, I think it's just making the place a little brighter.
I think I would concur with you. My one reservation I have is up over the front of the altar where we replaced all those light bulbs. Are those LED bulbs up there in those ceiling canisters?
They are, and I talked to them about changing all of those while they have whatever lifting equipment and the tools and equipment there,
Yeah.
changing all those out, because the electrician said, Steve said, yeah, that something doesn't seem right with that. I think they just were not the appropriate lamp or bulb to be put in there, and those were. They just unscrewed the incandescent and screwed in a new LED light. The same thing I did on my front porch, and so that. But he thinks that it needs to be a different light, and there's where I think the lighting consultant can help too. Those may need to be some kind of a different spotlight, or more focused light,
like a flood lamp.
Yeah, something like that. That gets a different. That one is brighter and gives us more lumens.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what was put in there was wrong.
Craig, I guess I would also say that I think the lights up front in the choir area are a little colder.
Yes.
They are not near as warm as maybe what we've been trying to talk about. So again, I think, don't you have the flexibility with LEDs to get different temperature or color of light?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, that's really what I think why we need the lighting designer, because she has the experience of knowing. In fact, I asked her, if you say I want this specific lamp or this bulb, does that differ between manufacturers? And she said yes. I said, well, then that's one of the things that we need to make sure that everything is Sylvania. Or, I don't know who the manufacturer. Probably.
And maybe we buy a couple of them just so we have them in the event 20 years is a optimistic assessment of life.
Well, in 20 years,
I
they'll
think-
have even newer technology, so.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, maybe not then, okay.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a bad idea for a place that maybe it could be bumped. The lighting, and you're absolutely right about the lighting level in the choir lofts. You really, I didn't realize how bad it is. And I know what happened. Lights burn out, and Judy went to Home Depot or Lowe's, probably Lowe's because we have a credit card for Lowe's, and bought a replacement. Actually, I was surprised they all match. They're all bad, but they're all bad together. You know, it's not one a different rendition than the others. So, yeah, I would say what we would do with this project is replace all of the lights everywhere, get them all similar, all, you know, whether it's the equivalent of a 400-watt light bulb or the equivalent of a 100-watt light bulb, that they're all of the same look and feel. So,
When can they set up a demo?
I have to get back to them and ask them that. I said, if it was up to me, I'd say, let's get this thing planned and do it right now. But I wanted to talk with you all before we did anything more. I'm just looking at my notes here to see if there's anything else that we talked about before. Were there any other questions that the one thing we did talk about was, can it be done without removing the pews? Absolutely. In fact, the electrician said he has done a couple of churches. He has some scaffolding himself. He said, I was describing to him some of the scaffolding that I have seen used in the past, and he said, yep, that's all available. I just would have to rent some of that. He said he has done, he did 2 churches where they put furniture pads over the pews and then sheeted it with plywood and actually worked off ladders from that kind of plywood decking. And I said, that was sturdy enough and you didn't do damage? Oh, no. He said it worked out fine. But he was working off of, I don't know what's the tallest step ladder, but he said that would not work here, that our lights are higher because you not only need to get up to the bottom of the fixture, you need to get to the top of the fixture. Yep. And I said, also, what we should do while we're up there is we should clean it. We should clean all the fixtures. We should examine the parts. And that might be something we could do too when we do this test or this demo is, are there any, I don't know if there, this is probably not true, but are there any plastic parts in there that are, you know, just aging and cracked? Because before we get too wound up here in doing this retrofit of the lamps, is the light fixture really as good as we think it is? Is it still solid? Can it be used? So I think that would be another thing to evaluate.
Craig,
Well, I think if the light is as old as you're saying, there's probably not as much plastic in there as you would think. I would think thered be more brass fittings
Yes.
than anything else. And that to me would typify a quality lamp.
I think you're right. And I just say that so that we don't forget to, let's look while we're there and while it won't be me going up in a lift that high, but somebody else can look at the, you know, what's it all look like, because we don't want to do something and find out, you know, a year from now, holy cow, that now, and I'm also assuming, you know, what you're saying, Wayne, with the fixture itself, where you would be screwing in this new lamp, that's probably all a good quality material. And
Yeah, the only thing that usually degrades in them is the cardboard collar that sits in and around the threaded fitting. And you can buy them for pennies and replace them. That's usually not an issue. But my experience with doing that kind of work was the collars are the only thing that degrade over time.
Yeah. I mean, and as you and I have talked, and I said to the electrician, you know, the wire is the wire. And I mean, and it's not like it's, this is not knob and tube wiring here. The stuff they were doing in the 60s was comparable to today. If anything, they probably have more conduit and stuff that was at least a better quality than maybe we're seeing in some of the commercial stuff today.
Yeah.
So
Craig, another line of thought. Historically, we have said we might like to try and get this done before we return to the sanctuary. Any
yes,
thoughts or discussion you had with them on that?
yes, and all of it really leans towards kind of retrofit that we've been talking about. To order new fixtures, the lead time there is is probably months. So nothing would really or could be done, and that all gets much more complicated too. I know, Wayne, you and I have talked about, if we went to a new fixture, those things are all pendant mounted, so they're hanging down. I don't know what the 10, 15 feet from the attachment up at the
Right.
roof line.
Yeah.
That would all have to be replaced as well. Um, and that requires, bigger equipment. It's much more complicated.
Right. Then you're going to have to go to the junction box in the ceiling and rewire from there all
Yep.
the way down to the fixture.
Yep. Yep. That's right. That's right. Um, I was just saying, well, if we could do this if we could do the demo for $500, why can't we do all the rest of them for something in the same kind of a range? So we have 11 big ones, and we have 10 of the little baby brothers.
And then we have the upfront.
We'd have the upfront, but I think that's really just getting up and unscrewing the old one and screwing the right one. So I don't know that that's a lot of labor cost, but I mean, I think we could be talking about a $15,000 project compared to a 75,000. And these numbers, I'm making them up, but I know if you take $500 times 21 fixtures, you're at what, $10,000. So to do all the others, and the little ones on the outside aisleways aren't nearly as complicated, don't have as many bulbs in. So I mean, just as an order of magnitude, we're talking $10,000-$20,000 compared to
80.
I don't know, 80, 90,
Yeah, definitely.
and maybe even more because of the complexity of new controllers that would have to be added. But what we have to do is I think we have to have it do this demo, do this test, and then let's take a look at it.
I agree.
And
Yeah.
and we could also, talk to the electrical contractor about what did he run across, what were the issues, what does he see in going forward. Because we're going to do it where it's easy access. We're not going to do one in the pews, but he says no, that can be done. He can figure that out. That's not a big deal. The other thing that I did talk to them about, I said, looking at this project, I don't see any way that we could get an upfront lump sum price from multiple contractors. We'd have to, how would we describe all this? How would we write down, specifications that everybody's got to be doing the same thing? I suppose the cost of the fixtures that Fromm is providing could be a fixed price. I've never liked to do a job where I, as the owner, bought anything and turned it over to a contractor, because if it doesn't work, it's always, well, that's what you gave me and it wasn't my fault. I'd rather be in a position where, no, I don't know anything. You supply it, you install it, you make it work and make it right. But something that treating this almost like a design build project, we could ask, and I think I was impressed with this fellow, Steve Zaffary. I mean, he seemed to be an honest, he was a roll up your sleeves and do it kind of guy. This is not a big fancy electrical contractor. He's a guy that he has done many churches. I would say, give me the name and a contact at 2 or 3 of these churches and let's talk to people. You know, you use these, how did you find them to work with? How'd you feel about their pricing? Well, you know, that whole business. He said, not a problem. I'd be glad to give you names and contacts. Uh, I said, well, that will be step 2. You know, let's look at step 1 is this demo. I said, also, is it possible that we could have you give us a not to exceed price? So we at least had some knowledge of what the top of this thing, what the worst case would be. He said, sure, I can do that too. That I said, as long as you're not going to say it's $2 million or something like that. And he said, yeah, I know what you mean. He said, I always wanted a new yacht, so maybe that's what the price would be. But anyway, so I think that's another aspect of this project that we need to give some thought to, of how can, when we are challenged by, you know, council or the congregation, what did we do to try to ensure that we were spending our money wisely and not just this guy happens to be my brother-in-law and you know, he needs work, so this guy's a reputable contractor, and but we need to do some investigating.
Well,
of him.
I just have 2 things. He did the work in the Rose Room, right?
Yes, yeah.
Have we had any electrical issues there that you know of?
No, we have not. He said it's interesting the timing from when that was done to today. The way some of those fixtures that were installed, he would not recommend we do it that way. There are because I've changed bulbs in those myself, and some of them are a pain to. I mean, anything's doable, but the way you have to take it apart to get into it, it's just. And he said, yeah, there's some better things
Yeah.
today. So he said he would have suggested, and I don't know if that was Doug Kramer, the architect, that selected those fixtures, or I wasn't involved back then with that work, so I don't know how that came to be.
Yeah. And
But
the other question I wanted to raise is, you look at the longevity we've gotten out of the lights we have. Are we going to get that kind of longevity out of a new light?
a completely new fixture, you
If we
mean?
buy new fixtures, are we going to get 20 years out of them? Or especially if he's admitting the fact that they are not made to the same specifications and quality.
The new ones are not as beefy. They're not as maybe.
And you
No.
see that in a lot of the electrical appliances and stuff that you buy these days.
Oh, yeah, you're right. So much of the stuff is almost designed to be throwaway.
Yeah.
You know that which that is a question for us to discuss. But I think that all leans back to, can we rehabilitate? Can we refit
Yep.
what we have there to give us the best of technology today? And someone said, or maybe it was George said earlier, you know, 5 years from now, it probably is going to be another wave of changing technology. But based on what we know at this time, we're making the best decision we can. But I think we still need to see it and make sure.
In the retrofit, would we need to replace fixtures?
No,
No.
You didn't think so? Okay.
no, we would basically change the light bulbs.
Yep.
Now it's not quite like that, because what we would also want to do is have the lighting designer select lamps, bulbs that would be giving us a more desired outcome.
Correct.
The good part of that is the wiring changes, I think, would probably be minimal, but it is going to take somebody to do some, I don't know what you would call it, troubleshooting to say, well, this wire is coming from this fixture and it needs to go to this controller. It's understanding what's there at a level much greater than any of us understand now.
And that would be part of the scope of Steve's work, wouldn't it?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
And that boils down to what you call line and load. You have line coming in, you have load going out, and then you just have to determine where those loads end. And that's a fun project if you have a junction box filled with wires to randomly go wire by wire and find out exactly what it energizes.
That's exactly what he said, Wayne. He said, I love this kind of stuff.
Oh, that is fun. I mean, that definitely is a lot of fun. But I think what it boils down to for me is, what is our goal? Is our goal to get better lighting, or is our goal to modernize the space?
I was happy to hear George say what he did.
Yeah, me too.
Honestly, I mean, I support this, but I can get a lot heartier in support if it is possible for us to do a retrofit here. I don't know. It really scares me to think about, and even though we have a lady who has years of experience doing this, this is not a kid right out of college. She has done a lot of churches, a lot of church work. I think she could really make some good recommendations on new fixtures, look, size. I mean, she had some thoughts. My biggest fear is that it's going to look too modern, and not that I'm opposed to modern, but I don't think it fits well with the architectural style.
And I want to improve things that we have an ice cube's chance of improving. It's dark in the church. I think we can make it brighter.
Yes.
It looks relatively good with the existing fixtures. Are we going to be able to improve that? I don't know. And what I do know is we're about to open Pandora's box.
Yes. And when the congregation returns, you're going to have hundreds of different opinions of just what was done and why was it done, because, I love those lights, or, I'm the one who donated X number of dollars toward those lights. And now what have you done?
But I don't know as though anybody is going to disagree with, hey, I can see.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But we just have to make sure that we can do this.
Yeah. Okay. Can we talk a little bit about next steps then?
Sure.
Are we getting to the point, Craig, or do you have anything else that you want to discuss as a
No, I don't, because I did not go into discussion about what kind of new fixtures, or recommendations for fixtures, because she would have to do a lot more work now that she has seen the space and has a better sense of proportion of the fixture. I thought this seemed like such a great idea to do a demo of it, and let's see what the quality of the light is, the improvement in the light. And if we can do that, then there's no need to change the fixtures. Let's just.
I agree.
Correct. Does anybody of the three of us disagree with the next immediate step being the demo?
Well, I'm behind you on that one. I can't get it set up fast enough.
Craig?
Now, do we need to have anybody else approve? I mean, let's say we're going to spend hundreds of dollars, not thousands, but do we have to have anybody else
I can tell you what my opinion is on that. And I would then want the president of council, as well as you, Craig, because you've got a lot of experience doing this kind of work at the church. My opinion is that since we have already talked to council about the fact that we are looking into and plan to spend some amount of the Hope Out Loud money on improved lighting, I don't think we need to ask anybody's permission, but rather we should just launch into the demo, and at the next council meeting, Wayne and I, and if you would like, we could invite you for a condensed version of this recording.
You really
Um,
put this together well, Craig. I think you got it down pat.
I would say, and if anybody wants the long story, that's exactly why we did the recording. They can watch this if they want. But I would say we don't need to ask permission. We get back in touch with Fromm and Steve and say, as soon as you're ready, we're up for it. And then we can invite people at council to come and give the old assessment.
Yeah, I think that's a
So
great
that's my
idea.
thought. What do you
Yeah.
think, Wayne?
I agree wholeheartedly. When we discussed this the last time at council, it was stated at that point in time that Hope Out Loud funds were going to be made available to improve the sanctuary lighting. So the monies are there. And if a demo it would come in at $500, I think it's money well spent, because if it achieves what goal I'm thinking we're going for is improved lighting at a minimal cost of just replacing bulbs, I can't see where you're not going to have support to have that project completed.
I agree. I think it's the right thing to do. I think we can justify, we can explain to people, if in fact we do this and we don't get the result that we are looking for, well, then that's the next step we have to take. Okay, then what are we going to do? But rather than try and chase down 3 or 4 different paths at the same time, this seemed to me to be a good approach. We can, when it's completed, the demo is completed, we can invite people in, we can let people offer thoughts and opinions. And now it will only be the one of the big boys, one of the big fixtures in the sanctuary, but it would be representative of all of them, including some of the spotlights, the quality of the light. And I think it's important that the quality of the light, not only the foot candles down at the reading level, but the quality of the light. Does it really meet our warm? And in fact, we may say, you know what, this is not quite warm enough, or this is too yellowy, or this is, but we can see that, and it's easy enough to change then before we do everything. So
Exactly. And I like your approach to the fact that once we get to the point where we know what we want, we can make it uniform throughout all the lights in the sanctuary.
yeah.
And bring it all up to the same level.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think we really need to do that. I think when you really look, and I'm sure we have all come into the church, sat down, gone through a service, but really never paid attention to a whole lot of the details of how different some of the lights are, or, gee, it's really dark over there. Why is that? So I think this will give us the feel of a new environment there, just by changing lighting.
I will tell you, it was very obvious to me when I was videoing our services and it got into us recording some of them when it was dark outside. It was really evident, not only to me, but more importantly to my camera.
Yeah, right.
The second thing I think we need to do in parallel is exactly what you had said, Wayne, which is see if Steve can give you a couple of contacts, and then we can start reaching out kind of in parallel, right?
Yeah. Do a little research here.
Yep. No, I think that's good. And I told him that's the kind of thing. I mean, I would have done that if I was trying to explain where we're going with this, whether it's to church council or to a school board or to a corporate board. People are going to be asking the same questions. You're going to trust this guy to spend all this money? How do you know we're getting the right price, or getting a good deal, or getting a fair price? So yeah, that's why I talked to him about that already. Well, I will. So I will be saying, get some notes. Trying to get together as quickly as we can, do this demo so we can keep moving forward. But then also get. Do you think is 2 enough, or 3 contacts of churches that he's worked with? Maybe 3 is a good number, because if we can't get a hold of somebody, we could at least have a couple.
Right. I like 3. And since
I
there's,
think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And then our next council meeting is not this Sunday, but the following, right, Wayne?
yes, on the 13th.
It's on the 13th. And Craig, question to you. Would you like to be at council if we were to get, say, 10 minutes to talk about this?
Sure. You do those Zoom or is it real face to face or?
No, we do Zoom.
It's Zoom, so you could,
Yeah.
and I could give you a call, like with 5 minutes prior to when we might do this.
What was the date, did you say?
The
13th.
13th. Yeah.
Oh,
13th
Sunday the 13th.
at
in the
6:30.
Yeah, I can certainly do that.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, if you want, I'm sure Wayne and I could carry the ball, but if, you did all this work, Craig, it would be nice, I think, for council to hear it from you, for them to thank you,
Yeah.
and for you to hear directly anything that they have to say. So that is definitely my vote if you're willing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think you did a great presentation here, which really, I think if you give that to council, you'll have unanimous support for moving forward.
But a little briefer.
Shorter.
And I did like the humor. So keep going with the humor when you talked about the expletives earlier.
What time again? So I get it right in my calendar.
6:30. we start.
6:30.
Well,
It'll be closer to 7 or 7:30 when.
well, yeah, again, what we could do, Craig, my thought is it would be probably either old business or new business based upon the agenda. Not knowing the precise time that we would do that, I could certainly give you a call and say, Craig, it's about time for you to tune in to Zoom.
Okay. I like it. I like it.
Yeah, when we get done with all the committee reports, George,
Yeah.
that's when we'll go into new business. And at that point, as we're getting motions to accept all the committee reports, you can contact Craig and get him on board. And if he's there, we can have him do his presentation first. And then when he's done, he can return, to his home life.
Or just another thought here. If either one of you want to give some highlights, I could be available. So I don't ramble on and on and on. That maybe focus on answer questions that somebody has or explain in more detail. Just another thought to throw out here. I'm certainly willing to do whatever you want me to do.
Craig, here's my thought. Plan 4 minutes of summary in terms of research and what we are doing. And then be quiet and say, okay, anybody got any questions?
Yeah. Okay.
I agree.
Okay. I'll make some phone calls tomorrow.
That'll get you off to Sunday Night Football quicker, Craig.
Yeah. I'm not a pro football fan, so I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Did you see the Steelers and the Ravens played today, this afternoon?
I did.
I don't.
Oh, no, yeah, they did. This was the original Sunday night game that got punted to Tuesday night, got punted to Wednesday because of COVID troubles.
Oh, my.
And so they're just struggling to get some of the games. And did you see that the Denver quarterback was the 5th string quarterback? He hadn't quarterbacked since he was at Wake Forest.
Yeah.
I think he had 1 completion.
Yeah.
They got beat 31-3.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad.
Yeah, it really is. It really is sad. I'm more of a college football fan, but it's terrible. The same thing you're seeing that. In fact, the old rival Ohio State may not have enough games played to be eligible for any championship play, even the Big Ten playoffs. So
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
By the way, McSorley played today for the Ravens.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and he did okay because their first string quarterback was down with COVID, and their second string quarterback was Robert Griffin III that you might remember. He's been around.
Yeah,
Well, he
great.
wasn't, the Ravens were getting beat. And so they said, what do I got to lose? So,
George, I hope you turned the recording off.
no. There'll be some entertainment for anybody that wants. If they go this deep.
If they go this deep, they need to get a life. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put out some very succinct notes and say, if you want the details,
Yeah.
go to the recording and then be
There you
sure
go.
to turn it off before.
Yeah. Before we start to give you our theory on football. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Tomorrow I got to call some people and get moving here. Okay.
Well,
Anything else?
great job, Craig. I really think you did an amazing amount of work in a short time. And I think you got us on the right track here.
And the
I hope so.
outcome, from my perspective, exceeded what I thought might be possible and came in way lower than I thought it was going to cost us.
Yeah. And that's really, I do have some ulterior motives here. As chairman of the property committee, I have lots of ways we can spend money if we have it. And putting $100,000 into lights, if it isn't really required, may not be the best spend of our money. So,
And I don't like getting involved in projects where your probability of satisfying the customer is not as high. And again, coming back, I think everybody will respond well to, hey, I can see it now.
I can read.
But
yeah.
I'm less confident of our ability to pick fixtures and to come in under $250,000.
Yeah, no, I
redo all the lights.
And I have always said, when you're looking at something like that, everybody has an opinion. And if everybody liked vanilla, there wouldn't be a chocolate. So it's okay to have a diverse opinion about things. You just have to acknowledge that somebody picked it and you may not agree with it, but really, can life go on? That's
So to be able to